Hi, this is Mr. Herbold with a little shout out for my periods 3 and 5. Hope everybody's doing okay. What I thought I would do is kind of give a week 1 review of everything that you should have gotten so far this week. And then I'll try to do this, like I said, once a week just to make sure everybody's on the same page. And if you have any questions or anything, you can email me those. But here are some things that we should have gotten. Now, I'm going to post this form on Google Classroom, and so it'll have everything that I'm about to cover with you, so not to worry, but I wanted you to at least see the topics that we're going to cover. Okay, so the first one is Manifest Destiny. Manifest Destiny was that 19th century belief that America should basically conquer the entire continent, and they were going to do that so that from sea to shining sea, we owned everything. The first was the Great Plains. The Great Plains was a huge area between the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains. But nobody really liked it much because of the thick rooted grass. They thought, there's nothing we can do with that, not until John Deere comes around with his plow. So they just thought, well, it's just a passageway to get to California. So kind of went unnoticed. But the term Manifest Destiny was coined, the phrase itself was coined by John L. O'Sullivan. He was a newspaper editor. The Northwest, that's the land that lay between the Rocky Mountains and the Pacific Ocean, what today you and I would think of Washington and Oregon. But the U.S., Great Britain, Russia, and Spain all claim this area as their own, so we're going to have to sort that mess out. Then when Mexico gained their independence from Spain, we had a lot of Southwest settlers that included the areas of California, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and about half of Colorado. And they would intermarry with the Indians, and they called them mestizos. And there's also another one where the Indians and Native Americans intermarried, and they were called Creoles. So they had a whole culture in there, and they were exchanging political ideas and religious ideas and building materials like adobe and food like tortillas and language, English and Spanish. The Spanish also built missions. Father Serra, remember, built 21 missions all up and down the coast of California, which were designed to convert Native Americans to Catholicism. Eventually, though, Mexico gained their independence from Spain, took the missions away from the church, gave all the land away to a few peninsulares or rancheros to raise cattle, and not until 1860-something when Abraham Lincoln gave the missions back to the Catholic Church. But for now, that's the way it goes. Then there was the fur trade. Fur trappers, guys called mountain men, would be up in the mountains all year long, and they would trap as many beaver pelts as they could. And then one time out of the year, they would come down out of the mountains and meet at a place called a rendezvous. And at the rendezvous, they would meet guys like John Jacob Astor and such, and they would sell all the beaver pelts that they could get from their travels all year, and then they would take that money and buy all the stuff that they needed for the next year. So a new coat, fish hooks, buttons, you name it, dried food, everything. Then they'd go back up on the mountain, the whole thing start over again. But eventually the fur trade died because, one, they overdid it. They trapped so many of the little beavers, the species couldn't keep up, almost became extinct. And the other reason was the European fashion trends were changing and nobody was wearing fur anymore. So if you were a mountain man, you had a decision to make. You could either remain there and become a trail guide and help people to get to California, or you could go back east and try to get a job back there. But because of their trailblazing, we now had ways to get to California and the Oregon country. Then there was a man by the name of Stephen Austin. He struck a deal with the Mexican government to allow a certain number of American families into Texas. But they were supposed to do a couple things. One, they were supposed to become Roman Catholic. Two, they were supposed to abide by Mexican law. And three, they were supposed to basically become Spanish citizens and learn the Spanish language. They didn't do any of it. Then the Americans started screaming that they needed more representation in the Mexican government in the Texas territory. Mexico said, no, you're guests. They got mad, so they took over the Alamo, which was an old abandoned mission. and General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna went and killed everybody at the Alamo, made the Americans mad. Sam Houston led his army to find Santa Anna, found Santa Anna, and forced him to sign over Texas to the Americans living there. But it did not become part of the United States for 10 years. Why? Because the United States didn't want to mess with it because of the slavery issue. But eventually, President Polk would take not only Texas, but he would as slave, but he would balance it out with the Oregon Territory as being free. So that made Mexico very mad. Eventually, Polk will start a war with Mexico, and for 2 years we fought Mexico. But when we won, they signed the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and when they signed that, we got everything from the Colorado Rockies all the way to the Pacific Ocean. So that included California. The problem with that is California is going to cause a trouble in 1850, but we'll get to that later. So that's basically everything that you need to know for this week. And like I said, I'll try to do this once a week, just to kind of, keep you caught up with what you should have. I'm also going to put this document here that I'm going to put on the screen in just a second. And this one basically is just a kind of a rundown of all the things you need to know. The week in review. Keep sending your stuff in through Google Classroom. For the IRNSGs and other forums, just place your answers on a Google Doc and submit via Google Classroom. And I see a spelling error, and I'm going to fix that. Make sure you're checking School Loop often. Make sure you're checking your email. I know it's a pain. You're probably getting 8,000 emails every day, but try to check them. If you need to email me, it's ahherbold@capitalUSD.org. If you have any problems at all, hope everybody's doing safe and being healthy. And looks like we may be, according to the district, May 1st. It would be the last day, and then we'd go to school May 4th. So we'll see. We don't know. So anyway, signing off for the week, and I'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.